This is part 2 of our series on how to get the German freelance visa, where we speak with Beck, who successfully applied for the visa. The next point is the rental contract, and you have to find an apartment where you'll be staying. So could you comment on that?
Yeah, the rental contract is a tricky one. First of all, some of the embassies do not have full information on what kind of proof of accommodation to provide, and even some embassies, from hearing from other people's experiences, they do not mention about accommodation at all. In my case, it was following Berlin's immigration website and following the list of documents. They did mention to provide a rental contract, although in some cases people were fined by providing letters from their friends, acquaintances that they can stay temporarily in their apartment until they get an apartment and they register themselves in a permanent residence address in Germany. So those are fine, but of course it is encouraged that you get, if it's possible, you get a rental contract outlining the terms of your stay, specifically outlining how much you're going to be paying to rent a place. Either it's to be a room, or if it's a full apartment, then you can also agree on that. So that's fine. And in some cases, successful applicants have also shared that they were fine staying in a hotel or a rented Airbnb apartment and getting the confirmation from those sources. But of course, the best is to get someone to agree to rent and sign a contract. And of course, we will be attaching the rental contract agreement below.
Now, the next point was the bank statement. So again, it's not mentioned anywhere in the rules. Could you talk about that, please?
Yeah, definitely. Bank statements are there to make sure that freelancers are able to sustain themselves at the very beginning of their arrival in Germany. And it definitely is not mentioned either in Berlin's immigration website or the embassy's website. So I found out about bank statements from multiple acquaintances who have successfully received freelance visas. Usually, Germany has a fixed amount of minimum money you would need to have per month in order to sustain yourself. So I believe this year it's 850 euros per month that you need to have, and that needs to be shown for the next 12 months. That you need to have the amount in your bank accounts. It's about 10,000 euros that you need to show in your bank account. This is definitely not mentioned, and the embassy did ask for it specifically when I was making an application. So it's definitely, you would need to show a bank account. Does not necessarily German bank account. It can be any other country's bank account, as long as your bank statement is either in English or German. Then the embassy is happy to accept that bank statement, the proof of funds statement showing that you have enough amount money for the next 12 months to sustain yourself.
Great. And would you be able to comment on the calculation of that?
Yeah, the calculation is the figure that I quoted, 850 euros, is the government usually posts that figure, the German government, and you can look up the current fee, that is minimum livelihood fee, that's calculated per person per month, and that needs to be multiplied by 12, and that's the final figure that you will need to show in your bank statement. And make sure that you calculate the conversions and have maybe 10 or 15% buffer in case the exchange rates go down or up, so that you don't you are in a safe zone.
Language is the next point. What sort of knowledge of German does one need to have under the freelance visa?
There are no specific requirements for the language for freelancers, because sometimes freelancers do not require a language in order to perform their freelance activities. So, for example, if I'm a web developer, then most of the coding happens in English, and most of the tasks are posted in English. And I believe German government understands that, and they do not require language minimum language barrier for freelancers to enter Germany and get the freelance visa. That being said, they also would want to see that in writing, just to have a backup of the words. So I was suggested to have my letters of intent mentioning that the working language needs to be in English. So the clients that I have in Germany, they mentioned that they are happy to run our relationship, freelance relationship in English, and that was confirmed by them.
And could you just talk about the distinction between the recommendation letters and the letters of intent? Are you talking about one and the same thing?
Yeah, definitely. So recommendation letters are from your current or previous clients who have recommended you as outstanding, or as you have worked with them in the past or currently working with them. Letters of intent are something that shows the embassy, the immigration office in Germany, that there are clients whom you have found that are happy to work with you in the coming months or in the future. And letters of intent is a required document by the immigration office in Germany, and as well as the embassy, of course. And there is a certain format that's expected from the applicants that they need to follow in order to draft that letter of intent. So this is not a contract, because contract would be binding the client as well as the freelancer to work in the future, no matter what, and it would have its own legal power. But letter of intent is a simple formal letter that shows that they are happy to consider to work with the freelancer if certain conditions are met. And very key point, or there are a few points that we need to discuss in the letter of intent is, so the first point is to make sure that there's physical requirement for you to be physically in Germany. Otherwise, you wouldn't need the freelance visa to perform your activity. So, for example, web developers, they can perform their activities remotely, and nowadays people can use Zoom and other conference tools to work remotely. So you need to make sure that there are either required meetings that you need to carry out with the client, or you need to go into the premises of the client in order to perform your activities, freelance activities. So that's important, and that needs to be mentioned in the letter itself, the letter of intent. Another point is the calculation of fees that you'll be receiving for your work. And this cannot be a contract, because if it's a contract, then it will mean that you will end up working full time in the
yeah, and I suppose it may also mean that you could perform the services remotely if the contract had already been entered into.
Exactly, yeah. So that's also another point, a very important point. So it cannot be a contract. It needs to be a letter of intent that outlines how much you will get paid per hour, and how many hours you will spend per month. And that will also allow the embassy to calculate the final fee and make sure that the sum of clients' letters of intent will allow you to sustain yourself in Germany from the financial perspective. So that's the short summary of letter of intent.
In part 3 of this series, we will look at other important aspects of applying for the freelance visa, including recognition of qualifications, the cover letter, the process for translation, the capital budget, and profit and loss statements that you need.